Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm back with another War Tycoon ranking video. And today I'm going to be ranking every single game pass in War Tycoon from worst to best, of course. And if you guys have been watching for, well, honestly, a long time now, you might have known that I did a somewhat similar video a few years back, I think. But since then, a lot has changed. And by a lot, I mean, well, they've pretty much doubled the amount of game passes, and, well, every game pass has changed a lot since then. Speaking of new game passes, though, the first and worst game pass I'll be talking about is, of course, I'm talking about the camo customizer. Now, hopefully none of you guys own this thing, because this is, well, honestly, probably one of the most useless game passes, because all it does is allow you to change the color of your gun. But honestly, I don't even know why you would really need that, because you can make some pretty cool looking, well, skins without the game pass. Because if you come over to the gun camo, you already have all of these options to choose from. And honestly, it's definitely not worth 200 Robux just so you can have your own unique special skin. And honestly, I hope none of you guys have this. But anyways, on to the next one. This is also a relatively recent addition, and that is the Auto Collect Game Pass. And this one, as you might be able to imagine, it lets you automatically collect the money that goes here. So instead of having to walk on the collector, it just automatically collects it. But it costs 300 Robux, which honestly is completely useless as well. Are you really that lazy that you can't even just fly back to your base and, well, collect your money before leaving the game? Honestly, it doesn't make sense to me, because 300 Robux is a lot for something that, well, honestly does very little. It kind of seems like just a cash grab for people who have too much money to spend. But anyways, on to, well, this is actually one of the oldest game passes in the game, although honestly, and it's actually kind of sad because it's one that I bought back when it was actually not all that bad, and I'm talking about the Tactical JLTV. This thing is not good whatsoever. So pretty much, if you guys are wondering what this is, it's just an armored car. There's nothing special about it. It's honestly pretty much the exact same as the Gurkha MPV, except the top gunner has a bit more armor. There's still gaps in the armor that you can easily shoot through. And honestly, I would not recommend anyone buying it. Even though it is pretty cheap, it's one of the cheapest game passes in the game, only costing 50 Robux. Even then, don't ever buy it. Honestly, you'll be pretty much destroyed by pretty much any other vehicle in this game that isn't a car. But anyways, now we're on to some of like the game passes that, although they're not good per se, they're actually not too bad in certain circumstances. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is the Boxer CRV, which, if you're wondering, is this thingamabob. It's another armored attack vehicle, except, well, it costs 400 Robux, which I know is quite a bit. And honestly, that's the main reason why I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, because it would lose in a fight to probably even the worst tank in this game. The only reason that why I'm not putting it like way at the bottom is because honestly, I mean, you can absolutely annihilate people that don't have vehicles with it. And you don't have to have 6 rebirths to use it. I'm pretty sure you only need 1 rebirth to get this thing. So honestly, if you just want a cool vehicle to drive around in and you're new to the game and don't have 6 rebirths yet, I mean, it costs quite a bit, but like honestly, this vehicle is not bad. But anyways, on to the next one. And so now we're on to the next game pass, and honestly, if I'm correct, I think that this is the cheapest game pass in the game, only being 40 Robux. And of course, I'm talking about this thing, the Speedy Oil Extractor. And honestly, I would not recommend this for anyone except for people who are brand new to the game, because this thing can only really help you when you just start off with 0 rebirths. When you just kind of want to skip all the boring parts, you can buy this for only 40 Robux. And honestly, it does help at the very start of the game. But if you're at any amount of rebirths, it is practically useless, because that thing only makes $10 per half a second, which is not that good, to be honest. Because as you can see, even if you just come out here to some of the other oil extractors, as you can see, this one is making $1,200 every 4 seconds, which is a lot more than the Speedy Oil Extractor. So obviously, I would not recommend this to anyone who is watching this video, because chances are, if you're watching this video, you have some experience in this game, because this is only useful to, well, very beginner players. Alright, now we're on to the Destroyer Drone, and this thing is probably one of the game passes that I see the very least, because it's just not worth it. First of all, almost no one uses drones anyways, because they're not all that good, because as you might be able to imagine, if you're in a drone, then that means that you are actually right here, which pretty much means that if anyone knows where your drone came from, they can just head over to your base and kill you instantly. Honestly, the destroyer drone isn't that much better than, well, the rocket drone, because it can still get taken out by a dude with a gun. If you're going up against someone who has any decent gun and any decent aim, he will be able to just shoot you down. And especially because it costs 500 Robux. That is not cheap for something that isn't even whatsoever good. Anyways, on to the next one. Now we're entering game passes that are actually decent to buy. They're not exactly the best in the game, but they're kind of alright. Starting off with, we have the 10,000 shield health. And this is the only game pass I got from the daily spin, and honestly, it's not bad, because this thing makes it so much harder for people to raid your bases with anything from tanks to helicopters, because like it gives you like twice the health of a normal person's base, meaning that if someone's trying to raid you with even something as good as an M1 Abrams, if you look at how much damage an M1 Abrams shot does to the shield, yeah, you're gonna be here for a while raiding this guy's base, because it is not exactly fast. Honestly, it does help a lot to keep out people who are raiding your base with, well, tanks or helicopters or just guns. But the main reason why it's not too high up is because, of course, the missile silo. Because a nuke, it will destroy your shield. So honestly, it's not bad because it only costs 150 Robux, making it one of the cheaper game passes in this game. But honestly, it is something that I would recommend buying. But anyways, going from one of the cheapest game passes to one of the most expensive game passes, we have the Abrams X. And this thing can annihilate. But as you might have noticed, even though I say it can annihilate, I don't have it. And that is because this thing is expensive. That is the only thing keeping this thing back. It costs 1,500 Robux. That is a ton of money to be spending on a free game. And even though that the tank kind of annihilates, it's still just not worth it for most people unless you have a bunch of money laying around. Because yeah, sure, it annihilates, but honestly, I don't think it's honestly that much better than a regular M1 Abrams. At least it's not good enough that, like, if you're bad and you buy an M1 Abrams X, you will not be able to beat someone who's good in a regular M1 Abrams, because, well, it's just better, but like it's not insanely overpowered or anything. But overall, it's not too bad, although I personally would not buy it. Like, now for probably one of the most purchased game passes in War Tycoon, and I'm talking about the 2x armor, 100 extra health, the double HP armor, whatever you want to call it. This thing is bought by a lot of people because it's only 200 Robux, and it makes it so much easier to win gunfights with people. Because, well, you just have more health than them. But not just that, you can also survive drops from higher distances, meaning that, well, if you jump out of your helicopter, you're more likely to survive. But if you're wondering why I didn't put it insanely high up on the list, later in the video, there's another game pass I go over that does the same thing and more for the same price. So honestly, it's not really worth buying it. Alright, so now I'm on to what is probably my most used gun in the game. And as many of you guys might know, that is a gun that can be found down in the bunker, and of course, I'm talking about the Barrett. Now, this thing annihilates. This thing is a really solid sniper for a solid price. It's the highest damage sniper other than the explosive sniper, but it only costs 200 Robux, and this is my most used gun. It's just a slightly better sniper, but it's just slightly better enough that I think it's definitely worth the 200 Robux price. There's still better guns to buy, such as the next gun I'm going to be going over, which is actually one of the cheapest game passes as well, and that is the Desert Eagle. Because if you don't know, it one taps in the head people with no armor, because it does 100 damage in the head, and, well, it's pretty much perfectly accurate. Like, look, as you can see, I just sprayed this guy and hit 3 bullets in the head. Honestly, one of my favorite guns to use, and honestly, probably one of the most underrated guns since it got buffed. But anyways, while I'm heading over to show you guys the next game pass in today's video, I just wanted to remind you guys that it is the perfect time for you guys to subscribe, because subscribing, well, most of you guys aren't even subscribed, and it's free, and it really helps me out. But anyways, back to the video. So as you can see, we're over here, and the next game pass in today's video is the MI-24. And as you can see, this is another one of the game passes that I just don't have, because honestly, I don't use helicopters too much, but this thing absolutely annihilates. From the few times I've used it from people that I've stolen it from, it completely decimates. Like, if you're looking for a vehicle to take out people's bases with, yeah, this helicopter will absolutely destroy their shield. And like a few other game passes in today's video, the main thing holding it back from being higher on today's list is it costs 1,000 Robux. Speaking of overpriced and overpowered game passes, I'm going to be talking about what is probably the most overpowered and best gun in the game, but it's so overpriced, and that is the explosive sniper. Now this thing, it annihilates, man. It's another one of the weapons that I don't have because, well, it just costs too much. And I'm not willing to spend 2,000 Robux on a free game. But this thing, it takes out vehicles. It takes out people. You don't even have to shoot the people because it creates a giant explosion around where the bullet is fired. And, well, honestly, it's really good, but it just costs too much, man. If you have the money, I would recommend it because it is insanely good, but honestly, it's just way too overpriced for most of us to buy. But anyways, now that I'm done with going over the explosive sniper, now I'm going to be going over what is probably one of my favorite game passes in the game. Even though it's technically not the best, it is one of my favorite, and I'm talking about the Speedy Humvee. This thing only costs 50 Robux and is one of the fastest forms of transportation early game, and even late game. Like, if you're just trying to get to one base to the other, the Speedy Humvee will honestly probably be faster than a helicopter, because a helicopter, it's further away from your spawn. You have to walk over there. You have to spool up your helicopter. It's also just a much bigger target. This thing, it's just small, fast, difficult target. Honestly, it's hard to shoot a Speedy Humvee that's driving around. As you can see, we got this guy in the Mouse tank. As you can see, he hitting precisely. Oh, it's kind of insanely overpowered. As you can see, this guy stands no chance in his Mouse tank to take me out. Overall, probably my favorite game pass in the game, although not the best for most people. But anyways, now we're down to the top 3 highest ranked game passes in the game, starting out with the 2x Cash Game Pass. This thing costs 400 Robux, which is quite a bit, and you guys might be wondering, well, if it's so good, why don't you have it, Finns? And there's a good reason for that, because, well, I've already basically beaten the game, which is why I don't have it, because I don't need any more money. I'm pretty much set for the rest of the game. But for most people who are grinding out rebirths lower than me, even people who are grinding out rebirths higher than me, trying to get to rebirth 69, maybe rebirth 100, this is pretty much required, because this thing allows you to rebirth so much faster than without it. But now we're on to my favorite and honestly best assault rifle in the whole game. And I know all you guys who use the G36 and the Scar and all those guns are probably disagreeing with me right now, but honestly, you can't deny the Foul Heavy completely annihilates. This thing has damage of, well, a full rifle. It does 80 damage in the head, almost as much as a Desert Eagle. And even though it has insane damage, it's fully automatic. This thing eradicates people. Yeah, so as you can see, that was kind of a sneaky move. It was kind of a third party, but yeah, this gun kind of annihilates. And, well, for only 200 Robux, the only downside I can think of is that you can't equip attachments to it, meaning that you're stuck with these ugly, ugly iron sights. Yep, as you can see, we got this dude again. So now we're on to what is the best, and honestly, probably most underutilized Game Pass in War Tycoon. I'm talking about the World War II US Army Game Pass. This thing is found down here. I think it takes 4 rebirths to get it, but once you get it, this thing is crazy overpowered. So in here, it costs only 200 Robux, and you get the 2x armor, which in itself is worth 200 Robux, but you also get a brand new, very, very good gun, which in itself is also probably worth 200 Robux. It does insanely high damage. It has a relatively high fire rate. It makes a cool pinging noise, which is always an upside. And honestly, very, very high accuracy. Like, this thing, it's insanely useful for long range because of its very low recoil and very high accuracy. Overall, very, very useful, although I barely see anyone using the M1 Garand for whatever reason, which I'm not entirely sure why, because as I've shown in, well, this video right here, the M1 Garand can completely annihilate. If you disagree with the ranking, make sure to comment your opinions down below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.